Welcome back, guys. Another episode of Indiana Football in Review. Indiana takes on Michigan, loses 52-7. I'm kind of at that point in the season, Mitchell. And by the way, my name is John Alden, Mitchell Paige, former Indiana wide receiver with me. Kind of just dove right in because we're at the point in the season, Mitchell, where you're kind of at a crossroads, not only with the specific season at play, but you're kind of getting to the point to where a lot of people are starting to evaluate what the future might hold. Do you stick with the current regime? Do you continue to see how things go because the buyout's so big? And we don't have to dive into all that stuff right now. That's just kind of things that have been going through my mind over the past, 24 hours. But Indiana comes away with another loss on the road to let's give Michigan tons of credit, first of all. Michigan is without a doubt one of the best college football teams in the country this year, in the past couple of years, to be sure about that. And they've held every team they've faced, including Indiana, to 10 points or less. So when it comes down to it, it's not like Michigan did something out of the ordinary against Indiana. But when you look at things from an Indiana perspective, it's disappointing that they have taken this far of a step back when you see what they had going for them 2 to 3 years ago.
Yeah. Obviously it's a completely different team. I think it's watching Indiana is like watching a team that's it's like a ship lost in the ocean. They're not really pointed in any direction. I thought they actually did look pretty good in the first quarter. I saw a couple of tweets like, all of a sudden, are we the best team ever? And obviously they're facetious, but we looked okay. So this was never a game that I don't know what the spread was. I would have taken Michigan with all the money that I had. I just don't think we matched up really at any position, which is disappointing. I mean, this Michigan team's obviously as good as they've been in a long time, but it's just there used to be when you'd watch Indiana, the only thing I can reference is when I was there, we had an identity, right? We were going to score a lot of points and try to bend but don't break our way into a W. But that was our identity as a team. We scored a bunch of points. We played super fast. We were good on special teams, and we took chances. We weren't somebody that was just going to wait for you to roll us over. And that's just kind of what it feels like when you watch Indiana. It feels like we're waiting to get hit by a train. And if we survive the first train, we jump on the second tracks and don't even try to get out of the way. Like, it just was, they never feel like they really have any consistent momentum. I thought they were, again, good in the first quarter. And then you're playing on the road to a team you're probably going to lose by 42, at least when you look at the season as a whole. This isn't based on the Indiana versus Michigan. This is based on this year's Michigan versus this year's Indiana. I mean, you just don't compete. So there were so many interesting decisions that were made. To not go for the 4th and 2, I thought was very white flag. I understood the quarterback controversy. There is clearly something that was a disconnect amongst Tom Allen and the rest of the coaches for it to still be going on. And we're about to be in week 7 or 8 or whatever it is of the season, and you still don't know who your quarterback's going to be. That decision needs to be made. But nevertheless, we were where we were. And then to watch the way that they were handled, substituted, Taven Jackson to get thrown in after standing for 2 hours in the rain, and they run a deep post on the first play. Now, I get taking shots, and I appreciate that when you're down 40, but, I mean, give the kid a chance. These are young players that have no confidence, no game experience to draw on. You can't just throw them to the wolves, and that's really what it was. It was lambs to the slaughter. It just never looked like we really competed. It was hard to watch, man. It really was. It was deflating, and I hate to get to this and use this word, but it was just kind of hopeless. You were watching something that was inevitable, and it just didn't. I don't know. Even a couple years ago, 1, 2, 3 years ago, it felt like there was always hope. We could always do something, and for whatever reason, this year there was a little bit early, and then it's just, I mean, all the air's out of the balloon now.
Yeah, and I'll look ahead to next week here in a few minutes, but the one thing about the quarterback controversy situation, whatever you want to call it, that I want to throw in there is, and maybe there was an answer and I just haven't seen it, but the one thing that might have made sense to me if this were the case would be the fact that Rod Carey had something different in mind, considering this is his first time being the official offensive coordinator. Maybe he wanted to make some changes. Again, though, whether or not he wanted to change who the starter was, I still don't agree with the fact that you're yanking guys in and out of the game. And like you said earlier, Taven Jackson gets thrown into a situation where he's been cold for a while and you expect him to come in and perform. It didn't make any sense. When it feels like you yanked him out the first time, that's when he was getting momentum. Yeah, he threw that interception, but he also was a part of the drive that got you your only points of the game. So that's just one thing that I guess we'll probably have questions about until the end of time, because it's just the way things roll. But
yeah, it just feels like at the end of the day, it's just we have no plan. Indiana,
there is no identity. You said that your teams had an identity, and they did. Kevin Wilson's teams were very offensive oriented. You knew that they were going to be in every game, even if the score was 52-49. And yeah, that if you were losing games like that, yeah, it pisses people off, but at least you knew that there was hope. That was that's kind of what fans became accustomed to during that era. And I remember there was a whole chaos team thing. Like, it didn't matter how good you're supposed to be. You still knew you're going to be competitive. But anyway, one thing I want to go ahead and say is a lot of people have been pointing at the Rutgers game this coming week as kind of, I don't want to call it a judgment day for Tom Allen, but as somebody from my perspective who has enjoyed what good has come from the Tom Allen era, it's definitely starting to run its course. And when you look at this Rutgers game and you look at what's kind of at stake, you've already gone through half of your schedule. If you don't get this win on homecoming to get you at 3-4 with a fairly, I don't want to say a favorable back half schedule, but it's definitely easier than the front part of your schedule was. If you don't get this game against Rutgers, it seems like whatever momentum, and I don't even want to call it momentum, that's a bad word to use, whatever hope or energy this team might have left in them, I don't see it coming back into them for the rest of the season. And I don't want to discredit what this team's capabilities are and their mental stability with this kind of season is. But when you've already gone through this twice with guys you already have on this roster for the past couple of years, it's tough to see things changing if you don't reverse the narrative this coming week against probably the most winnable opponent left on your schedule. Because if you beat Rutgers, then I think you can also beat, potentially, I'm not saying that you will, I'm saying that you have the potential to beat Illinois, Michigan State, and Purdue. I'm not going to put Wisconsin in that anymore. I would have put it there a few weeks ago when our outlook on this team was a little bit different. But if your goal to seize any kind of momentum for the rest of the season is to get to the postseason, even though it's the bare minimum, 6-6, it starts this week with Rutgers. And if you can't get that done, I don't really know what kind of hope you have left.
Yeah, I think you're bang on. And I'm just pulling up the schedule here real quick. So if you don't beat Rutgers, and I want to go back a little bit on some things that you were saying. I just want Indiana to be competitive. I don't care who the coach is.
It's not even fun anymore. I don't know if I texted this to you or I told somebody this the other day, and sorry for cutting you off, but it's not even fun to watch Indiana football anymore.
Yeah, they just don't fight. There's no battling, and I know that, like, it's obviously the guys are trying. It's not like the team's going out and just, we are going to lose. But it just doesn't feel like we're ever in a position to do well. And I'll never call for anybody's job. I don't care who the coach is. I want them to just be competitive. I want to make sure that I get in there. But now let's kind of go to the scheduling, because I mean, this is as bleak as we've felt as Indiana fans in a long, long time, right? You think about, I mean, this kind of downward spiral starts with Louisville, who turns out to be 6-0, and I don't think they're really that good. But
by the way, they did lose to Pittsburgh this weekend, who was 1-4. Pittsburgh was 1-4.
Right, and that's what I was going to say. I don't think they're that good. I think they beat a Notre Dame team that had a gauntlet of Ohio State gut-wrenching loss, Duke win at the last second at Duke, and then you've got Pittsburgh, and then they play somebody else in this coming week. I don't know who it is, but like you just get – or no, I'm thinking of Notre Dame. What am I talking about?
You just mixed Notre Dame and Louisville schedules together.
Cut that.
They played USC this week and totally smoked them.
Cut that. Yeah, that's what I was trying to think of. That's what. Okay, I mixed it up.
We're back on track.
So then they've got USC on the back end. That was funny. I was looking at Indiana's schedule, just confusing the heck out of myself. So they go Ohio State. Notre Dame goes Ohio State, Duke. Then they play Louisville, who is supposed to be not any good, and then they play USC. So that's sandwiched in between three really big opponents, and you catch them in a great place, and everything goes right if you're Louisville. But I don't think that team is very good. I think they're going to lose a lot of games, and I think they're going to lose a lot of games big. So we start that downward spiral of Indiana feeling on the 4th and goal, 3rd and goal from the 1 yard line, don't score. Then they look terrible against Akron. Then they're down 50 to Maryland, and Michigan smokes you. So now you're on a 4-week skid. If you don't beat Rutgers, then you've got Penn State coming, Wisconsin at home, who we've never matched up with. I mean, there's a chance they don't win another game. But if you beat Rutgers, okay, Penn State's going to be tough. Wisconsin's still going to be tough. But now you're still playing for something. You got 3 games to get to bowl eligibility, just like you said, man. It's
in a great way. And again, I don't know if this team has the capabilities to do this. I like to think that they do.
Yeah.
But if you're staring the end of the season in the face with 3 games that you know that you can win, that's something that you can take into the offseason and build momentum for the next year if you're able to do something like that. Yeah,
that you could play for pride, right? You get beat by Rutgers, and God forbid you get smoked at home on homecoming. Yeah. I mean, that we could be looking at not scoring more than 20 points the rest of the season. But I'm back to the point where I'm going to believe they did some good things in the first quarter. Hopefully we pick a guy and let him roll. It's Rod Carey's first time with either quarterback calling the plays. Maybe they'll let him open up the playbook and let's balls to the wall.
I think that's the number one thing you have to do. And I don't know how much of it is Rod Carey's decision and how much of it is Tom Allen's decision, but it doesn't matter. Brendan Sorsby or Taven Jackson, neither one of them have shown that they are that much better than the other one. You've just got to pick somebody and stick with it at this point. You've gone through half your schedule. Give your guy the rest of the season reps, because that's the guy you're going to roll with next year, more than likely, unless Dexter Williams storms back into the conversation.
Yeah, none of the 3 of them have been world-beating. It's not some kind of assortment of riches at quarterback in Indiana. Like, it's just not. You have to pick somebody and let them progress. And hopefully they don't go poaching somebody from the transfer portal. This is a point in time. If you're Indiana, you've got to pick a guy that's going to be your guy for the next 3 years, whether he's good or he's bad. You just have to choose. Donovan McCulley said it best. You just cannot get in rhythm. And the fact that they were waiting to tell him right before they were going on the field that's inexcusable. We could talk all kinds of stuff about the way that the game was handled and managed, and I think the way a lot of games have been managed, but they're at such an inflection point. It really is. I don't want to say make or break, but for the team, this is kind of your chance to buck up and show some fight and battle. Rutgers is good. They've got a lot of really good players. They've improved like crazy. Schiano has them playing really fast. It just is. It's a game you need to win. And a surging kind of Rutgers team, it's a great place to start for the rest of the year.
Yep, and it's going to be difficult, but we have seen times in the past with Indiana with their back against the wall, kind of like Michigan State last year. You go on the road, the conditions are terrible, and not that this is the same kind of scenario, because it's not, at least in terms of the type of environment you're going to be in. But if your back's against the wall and you want to play for something, you want to have a purpose as a player on this team and as a coach on this team, then you seize the moment and hopefully come away with the win against Rutgers. You don't get blown out. And honestly, you shouldn't lose. Even if Rutgers is the better team here, if you're Indiana and you know the consequences of what could happen to the rest of the season after this game, you can't afford to let Rutgers beat you in this game. So I feel like we've kind of butchered these points to death over these past 15 or so minutes, but I mean, that's kind of where we're at with Indiana football. It's a very depressing place to be.
Yeah, we're in a wasteland, but it's on the players, man. You have what you have as coaches. Those are the guys, right? Where nobody's coming for reinforcements. At a certain point as a player, you just have to play a little harder. And that's Buck so up, cliche and dumb. Yeah, you gotta battle down the stretch, man. You don't get very many Saturdays as a college football player, and I hope somebody's reminding them of that.
Yep.
It goes quick. So hopefully we can see some fight. I'm looking at Rutgers' schedule. I didn't even realize they had won as many games as they had.
Yeah, well, actually, I haven't looked at their record. I know that they're 5-2. Let's do a quick little look at Rutgers. What they've done. They beat Northwestern 24-7, Temple 36-7, Virginia Tech 35-16. They got hammered by Michigan, but not as bad as Indiana did, 31-7. They beat their FCS opponent Wagner 52-3, and they fought with Wisconsin. Only lost to them by 11, 24-13, and then beat Michigan State this past weekend 27-24. So honestly, I don't know if the line's out. I'm thinking it might be.
Let's end with
regardless.
That. Let's end with what's the line of IU?
Oh, it's -5. Rutgers currently -5.
I think it opened at -3, so people take
really. It's already gone. Wow. Okay. I mean, it's not that I'd like to say I'm surprised, but I guess I'm not. It is what it is.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and be the embarrassing one and say I took Indiana +34 this past weekend, and that didn't work out for me.
Yeah, you didn't consult me with that.
I know. I should have bet with the head, not the heart, right? So
that's the
worst. All right.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and wrap this thing up, and hopefully we'll be back next week with brighter prospects ahead. If not, then the dark cloud continues on if Indiana doesn't turn things around this coming weekend.
The dark cloud groweth.
The dark cloud groweth. All right, thanks for tuning in to Indiana Football in Review. Be sure to check out of Touch as well. Myself, Dustin Schutte, and Mitchell Paige. We've got a lot of fun things coming up. We started a voicemail line. We're going to crack that open this coming week. Hopefully you'll check that out for I think it'll be pretty fun. So thanks for listening, guys, and we'll talk to you next week.